introduce yourself. Just let us know who you are, where you are, what you're drinking, and if you have dry eye, not everyone on the board does, then maybe just kind of your story in brief. So, Aidan, I'm going to start with you.
Sure thing. Just getting the stream up. We're good on YouTube. All right. So my name's Aidan Moore. I'm in Paulsbo, secretary of the Dry Eye Foundation. And because I was doing other things, I need to get the questions in front of me. Just drinking water. I don't have dry eye myself. So I am on the board of the foundation. I've been working for the Dry Eye Shop since 2016 and recently have been doing customer service and talking to a lot of really interesting people and learning their stories. Previously, or currently, I'm working on the Dry Eye Stories project, which I really enjoyed and have helped out with other projects on the foundation, such as the survey and Happy Hour, which I'm really excited about. And then I've been on the board since 2018 when we started.
All right, thanks. Roger, let's go to you.
Hi, my name is Roger Newton. I'm in Bremerton, Washington, just down the road from Rebecca and Aidan. I do not have dry eye. Up until about 3 years ago, I did not know that dry eye was a thing. And I met Rebecca through a business class that we took together. And, you know, the more I found out about her passion and interest and the general need, I became interested in it. And then she asked me to join the board more as, you know, someone who's a business owner. I'm a general contractor by trade. And so my role on the board is really to just kind of look at the business policies and practices and things like how do we fund this wonderful organization. And, you know, we want to do a lot of great things, but we need to be able to, you know, pay for it. So that's kind of my slant, but the more I'm involved in the foundation, the more I really understand the need and have become, you know, maybe not as passionate as Rebecca, but, you know, have developed my own passion for this cause and just want to help as much as I can. Oh, and I'm drinking a Northwest IPA.
All right. All right, Dr. Brown?
I'm Dr. Sandra Brown. I'm an ophthalmologist. I live in Concord, North Carolina, which is just northeast of Charlotte. I'm driving home. I am not drinking anything because I'm operating tomorrow. And I met Rebecca online like 20 plus years ago. And she and I have just been in great contact ever since. And I still remember vividly speaking at her first regional dry eye meeting in Florida a long time ago. So she invited me to be on the board last year to provide the insight from the other side of the computer monitor. And I think that the emotional and spiritual experience of dry eye patients is incredibly important, and it'll take a lot of effort to push it into the consciousness of MDs, and so I'm just here to provide support for that.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Mandy?
All right, so I see the questions here about getting involved with the foundation and stuff, and so I didn't know if we were supposed to go over those first or if that's going to be for further discussion. So I'll just start with the intro stuff. I am located in Madison, Wisconsin, which you can see displayed in that picture there, and a cow right there, you know, so I'm representing my state. However, I'm not drinking a Wisconsin beer right now, unfortunately. I don't have any because I did dryuary, but I did have some wine, so I'm drinking wine. And Roger, thanks for being the only other person ever almost to drink alcohol on the dry happy hour. I feel like I'm usually the only one doing it.
Hey, I've joined a couple times.
Okay, maybe I wasn't on those. So Anyway, I am drinking the rosé. I think it's from Trader Joe's. It has like chickens on the front or something. I do have dry eye, and that is part of the reason why I'm on the board, is to present my perspective on that. I've had dry eye since I was 19, and I am now 43, although I act like I'm 12 half the time. So gotta keep young, right? Especially during COVID. So I have tried so many things. I have aqueous deficient dry eyes mostly. My eyes hardly produce any tears. I have not been diagnosed with any autoimmune disorder, which I think a lot of the doctors think I probably have something, but nothing's ever shown up. With having dry eye for 24 years, I have had several battles along the way, ups and downs. It's always a roller coaster ride with dry eye, but I have learned to most days manage it and live with it, and try to have a productive and happy life. So I've altered many of my behaviors and probably life choices, which you can read about in my dry eye story, which is on the page Aidan is working on. I talk about my former aspirations in life and how they've kind of been modified due to dry eye. So yeah, that's my story in brief, and probably get into more later. And anyone who's watched these before has heard my story in detail. So.
All right, thank you. So everybody's explained a little bit about kind of how you got involved with this in the first place, and a bit about how we met. I've known Dr. Brown, like she said, for 20 years, and Aidan for, I don't know, 8 or 10, and Roger and Mandy both a little more recently in the last few years. I'd love to hear more about why this matters to you, for anybody who would like to feel that. And I see Mandy nodding. Maybe.
Yeah, I can jump in, especially since I forgot to mute myself. So I am very passionate about what Rebecca has started and the services that she provides. I think that dry eye is something that a lot of people don't understand. And when you talk about it with people, they're like, oh yeah, my eyes tear in the winter when I ride my bike or when I'm outside, or oh yeah, my contacts get dry at night or something like that. And people just don't understand the extent of how much chronic dry eye and having dry eye all day long can impact your life. And there is a huge, a huge lack of awareness, but there's also a huge psychological and emotional component to dry eye. And that is one of the areas that I am trying to focus on more, is helping people who are new to dry eye, or connecting with people who have had dry eye for a long time. I think it's really important to develop a community and resources for people who are learning to navigate dry eye and how much it kind of uproots your life and changes things. I had to do it at 19. I had like a school, University of Minnesota email address on like an old time computer. So there weren't a whole lot of resources. Although I did go to a really good doctor at University of Minnesota first. So that was nice. And from there, I've just learned myself. I spent like all my time in the medical school at University of Minnesota when I should have been studying what my actual major was, and just trying to figure out what I could do. And I want to share that knowledge and help people overcome the obstacles and barriers to having a happy and productive life, I guess. So that's why it matters to me.
And you're a terrific representative for that. Mandy's been an incredible mentor within the community. Yeah, it's just really, really important to have that perspective, having been there and through this so long and having walked that path on. I'm just realizing I didn't actually introduce myself. I saw a lot of familiar names among the attendees and just didn't remember that I need to do that. Anyway, I'm Rebecca Petris, and I started this along with Aidan and former board member Roz a few years ago. It's really the outgrowth of almost 20 years of working with people who've got dry eye. Started out with people who were having complications after laser eye surgery, which has turned out to be over the years really one of the most painful forms and persistent forms of dry eye and pain syndromes that are not yet well understood. And one thing led to another. So I want to look now at just kind of roles here, the roles everyone sees themselves playing. And I know, Roger, you got into this a little bit, but I might just ask you to elaborate a little bit. How would you describe, maybe in a little more detail, your role on the board? When we have a meeting, what sorts of things are you going to argue for or argue against?
Are you muted?
Oh, good. I'm not the only one.
Okay. It's not like I haven't been on Zoom meetings nearly all week, but I guess, I'm a little bit of the devil's advocate / reality check guy, and not alone by any stretch. Everybody has had that role at some point or another, but that's probably my most consistent role because I'm still learning about the condition and don't experience it myself. The thing that's easiest for me to feel like I'm contributing on is when, ideas are presented to the board and I'm looking at it, try to be somewhat impartial and say, does this make sense financially? Where are the funds coming from? How are we going to pay for it? What are the long-term financial implications? What are the, some of the legal, at least from a business standpoint, legal impacts? I am concerned about, the liability as we take on or explore different initiatives. Because in my mind, our job especially as a beginning, the first board in what I hope is a long-term successful foundation is trying to lay the groundwork for how we are going to do business. Where is our revenue sources coming from so that we can, have this board outlast all of us and eventually, hand it off to some other generation that would keep moving it forward. So that's kind of when I'm involved, that's when my primary focus is does it make sense? How do we pay for it? Where are our risks and how are we helping people for the long term?
So that's been hugely valuable on the board to have those business skills and that background and to ask the hard questions. Another aspect that I've really valued in Roger is just having a perspective of somebody who hasn't dealt with this condition. What does all this stuff look like and sound like to the outside world? We get really immersed in our dry eye world, and it's just really helpful to just have our sites kind of trained on also outwardly what this looks like, see things through a different scope. Aidan, how about you?
Sure thing. So I'm the secretary, and honestly, during meetings, I'm most concentrated on taking the notes. And for better or for worse, I'm not the most argumentative person. But for me, the brainstorming, coming up with ideas is really fun, thinking about how we can help people creatively, dare I say, with our small budget and everything. So on meetings, I wouldn't say I'm the most vocal. I don't know.
How about outside the meetings then?
Yeah, outside the meetings,
I would beg to differ. You do a lot.
okay. Well, yeah, there's a lot behind the scenes. But yeah, just making sure I get the notes down is sometimes the only thing I can do. Outside of meetings, like I said, getting ideas for programs, thinking about, happy hour. I remember last summer when we were talking about setting up the survey. I try my best to get news stories published on Facebook. I kind of do announcements and stuff. There's one other thing I was thinking of. Anyways, and email and phone, that's me. If you call through the foundation or get on email, half the time it'll be me who responds. So.
Aidan and I resonate a lot in kind of the area of values and how community works too. So there's just the brainstorming sessions we have about just ideas and programs and how we get to the bottom of things are a really big deal here. We have a whole room that's just whiteboards. We brainstorm and we think through things. Dr. Brown.
So, Roger said that he brings some business background and business perspective, and I think one of the most useful things I can do is to bring the perspective of the super busy practicing ophthalmologist. And it often is a reality check where I'm saying, I really do not think you're going to get a large number of cornea specialists to do that. And at least I hope I explain the practical aspects of our professional lives that really provide some serious restrictions on the amount of time we can commit to difficult to manage chronic disease. And so for anybody who's in the dry eye happy hour, who's ever felt as though they were treated as a widget or treated in a programmatic fashion that didn't respond to their specific circumstances, all I can really say is that oftentimes your ophthalmologist has a desire to do much more for you at one moment in time when you're in front of them than they possibly practically can do. And that's not an apology. It's just that one of my jobs is to help everyone who's been incredibly frustrated with the healthcare system and eye doctors in general to understand that sometimes we can't really do what we want to do. And so a lot of the things that I encourage is facilitating things. And, I try to advise Rebecca and everyone else on the best way to reach out to ophthalmologists and how to basically entice them to engage more with a challenging patient population. And one of the ways to do that is to put tools in our hands that will unburden some of the educational communication, which is really, really critical. And so I hope I try to do that, even though a lot of times it sounds like me saying, don't really think that's going to happen in a whole lot of offices. Maybe it encourages everybody to think even a little further out of the box. And that's why I think that the Dry Eye Foundation is so incredibly important, because I think education is central to the patient's self-management of dry eye, and I don't think any patient is ever really going to get enough education in their eye doctor's office unless they're in there every week for 4 months getting the soundbite.
It's such an important perspective. And honestly, this is for the last 20 years, really, I've learned so much from hearing Dr. Brown describe the realities and constraints and the desires too of ophthalmologists or eye doctors in general in this area, and that's really helped guide how I think about how we go about getting our needs met. What's a reasonable burden to put on a doctor versus where else can we look to for some of these needs, and how obviously that's a big guiding factor for the foundation too, how we can pull things together to fill in some of these gaps. Let's see. That was everyone, I think, right? Okay, I would like to hear what any of you have to share about something we've done, say, in this past year or two, really, since formation, that you're particularly pleased about, something that some project we've engaged in, or even just one single thing that we've done that you found interesting, or you're glad that we managed to do this as a foundation. Mandy, how about you kick that off? And now it's your turn.
I'll probably go back to the same thing I was talking about before, that we have really extended our reaching out to people beyond Rebecca and Aidan. You guys have been swamped with people calling the foundation, and the ability to, I guess, dole out some of those questions and calls, and trying to align people with other people who have similar symptoms, talking to them at first, but because we are so involved in the community and have gotten to know people over time, we can, I mean, everyone's dry eye is completely different. There are probably no two dry eye stories that are the same, which is why it's so hard to treat and diagnose and tend to, I guess, right, Dr. Brown? So, so I guess that having those connections, knowing where to direct people to talk to people who maybe can relate more, has been one of the things that I have really enjoyed over the last year. I also think that our brainstorming during meetings and the things that we really want to do and aspire to do has been inspiring. It's just finding the time and the money, because you guys do so much of this out of the goodness of your hearts and just your passion about dry eye. And it would be fabulous, as Dr. Brown was mentioning, about education and outreach to, I mean, one of the things we've talked about, or I've talked about and said I would like to do, and that I think everyone here would be good at, is, you know, quitting our day jobs and becoming consultants, or extending the reach of the foundation to becoming consultants to doctors out there who have a lot of patients that are dealing with dry eye, so we can kind of, I can't think of the word right now, but we could address all questions before they go in with the doctor, and kind of, you know, work with the doctor and align things so that the actual appointment goes smoother. We know what we're looking at, what we're looking for. So that's a really long-term goal for us. So, but that's one of the things I've enjoyed talking about. And also, I'm developing this spreadsheet for people to use. I actually sent Aidan finally a draft of it, but it would be something that everyone can use to track the different eye drops that they use, the ingredients of the eye drops, how their eyes respond to them. Because one of the things that I have experienced over 24 years is that I will try different eye drops, spend so much money on different eye drops, and I'll try something and I'll be like, oh, this works great. And then I'll try something else and be like, oh, I hate this. And then 5 years later, I'll say, oh, maybe I should try that one again. And then I get it and I hate it. And I find that there is a recurring ingredient in certain eye drops that I really like. So it's trying to narrow down what ingredients work best for your eyes, so you're not wasting a lot of money on other things. So that would be only only eye drops, not all of the other treatments that are offered in offices right now. But it's another thing. So I guess 3 things. That's 3 things I'm excited about.
That was about over-the-counter drops, right? I mean, is there anyone
Yeah.
amongst us who hasn't tried probably 15 different types? And but it's, yeah, doing things systematically and recording some data. I mean, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that at work. Something you brought up also made me think of the kind of mini conference that we had back in, was it 06 in Florida that Dr. Brown mentioned? This is something I'd love to replicate, something like that someday. But the thing I was remembering about it was Dr. Brown did this amazing presentation about basically how to get the most out of your eye doctor appointment. And it was mind-blowing. It was so educational about how those appointments are put together and which parts you may have some control over and how you can best get your needs met going through them. Anyway, one of so many just educational areas that we're looking forward to getting more involved in. Aidan, favorite project or favorite thing?
It should come as no surprise, but I'm really, really happy with Happy Hour. I think this is like number 15 or 16. And I like talking to people. I'm kind of a one-on-one individual person having conversations. I don't know the medical world too much. I don't have the disease myself, but bringing people together face to face or as close as we can be, you know, having the videos on YouTube, there's nothing better to me than when someone calls in to the foundation and they say, I watched your YouTube video on such and such a thing. I saw these two people. Their experience was really interesting to me. This is what they said. And I've learned so much in connecting with people on the phone, better questions to ask on these subjects. Are you seeing a mental health person, or are you doing this or that, or have you tried that? It's helped me refine kind of my question skills, and we've made some good friends here. We have a growing list of, you know, previous panelists. And we have our regulars, and I just always look forward to it. I'll have to start bringing a drink every Friday, but other than that, I think it's been going really well.
That's just such an exciting thing these last 6 months. Just, yeah.
We can have a happy hour when I'm out in Seattle next month, and I'll take the ferry over, and I'll bring, or do I take the ferry over or drive? And I'll bring drinks. So
You can drive, but it's an awfully long drive.
yeah, I go around, right? So yeah, I'll take the ferry.
All right, Roger, on that one, is there, I don't know, it's something we've reported back in a board meeting or it's anything that you've seen that you...
I have to say, I mean, I know it sounds broken record-ish, but the happy hour is one of the coolest things that's come up in the last year, and, you know, kind of happened spontaneously and doesn't cost us any money and is really effective. And I'm really excited about it because I see the long-term potential for having so much content on YouTube that people can access anywhere in the world, whenever they want to. And that's just one little tidbit of the kind of stuff that this foundation can do, where we're creating this database that people can draw from forever. And so that's one of the coolest things I think that's just shown up in the last 12 months. I'm also very happy to see that the foundation actually has some money in the bank. That's really exciting relative to where we were a couple of years ago. And that we are getting more consistent contributions. People are, you know, thinking about us at the end of the year when they're doing their charitable contributions and throughout the year. And I'm quite appreciative for the support that the foundation has received so far, with, you know, other than, you know, a couple initiatives like this one today and a couple others, we haven't had a ton of ability to really market the foundation. And it's starting to kind of get a little bit of momentum, just word of mouth, and it's exciting. And it just helps to kind of reinvigorate, I think, all of us when we get positive feedback like that, and the sense that we're starting to help people. So those are my things that I'm most excited about right now.
I've been excited about the seeing more people find us in more ways, and just feeling like the reach is improving. Just there's nothing more thrilling really than getting on the phone with somebody and they're like, I never knew this existed, and they've done a ton of reading on the site. So like, oh my gosh, I finally found something that that I can connect with, and the happy hour in that regard too. To me, it feels like it improves accessibility and helps to reduce the isolation. And I'm a print kind of person. You had to drag me kicking and screaming onto video of any form, right? So this is really new to me and brought lots of discomfort, but I just see the impact. And it's really neat because at the end of the day, you can read forever, but it's very different if you connect or even just see people who are talking about the things that you experience every day. And there's some commonality there. And that's what we're kind of these calls.
Sorry to interrupt, but that's also better for people with dry eye, is talking rather than reading and staring at a screen.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yeah, well, that was it. I'm personally also really excited about the survey that we've been just very quietly running in the background for the last year and a half. We're going to be wrapping that up now. End of February is going to be the end of it. And then we start analyzing data and getting this information about what our community is experiencing out there. We have more than 400 entries now. I'd love to get us to 500 by the end of February. So if anybody's listening and hasn't completed the survey, please do. I'm excited about it because it's a really exhaustive inventory of how dry eye impacts us and what's been our experience of getting help and what helps and what doesn't. And I think in that data, we're going to find a lot of, I think we're going to find some surprises. I know I already have. I think we're going to find a lot of really interesting indicators of where more research needs to be done. And I think the data that we've gathered in it will give us credibility with research partners to say, look, 500 people are saying this. It all really helps. So very excited about that. I think one of the things I'm personally looking forward to most this year is making ways for other people to get involved. We're always time strapped, and I dearly love happy hour, but I'm also constantly feeling inadequate because I don't put in enough preparation time. So we've been looking at how do we staff that? How do we get volunteers involved so that we can make this everything that it can be. Would any of you like to speak more to something you're hoping we will be doing in the next year or two? Something you'd like to see us do or looking forward to that we have planned? Or something you hope you can achieve long term? Yeah.
I can. I hope that we can achieve more money coming in and more outreach to companies that are working on dry eye, and as I mentioned in our last meeting, maybe some celebrities who have been representatives for other dry eye drops on the market, and getting them involved and talking to people and raising just more awareness for the foundation, because as Rebecca has said, she has spent endless hours, and Aidan as well, and so much of it is just out of their own goodwill and free time, and not because they're rolling in the dough. And so it would be nice to help Rebecca expand the reach of the foundation by being able to hire other people, not only just have other volunteers, but be able to actually hire people that can put in the time to make all of the goals that the foundation has happen. And so we have this extensive list of projects that we would like to do, but as Rebecca says, she doesn't have the time, Aidan doesn't have the time, I work a full-time job, otherwise. You know, Roger works a full-time job, Sandy, a doctor. We just, you know, don't have the time to do it full-time. And so being able to pay people to do that, I think would be awesome, and it would help to expand the reach and the efforts of the foundation. Because I think I have to say that of all the dry eye groups out there, hope someone that runs another one isn't listening, but I do really appreciate the way that Rebecca and Aidan run the foundation, and especially the online groups that they have. I have to admit, I haven't been on those a lot lately because I've had so much screen time with work. I'm trying to limit my screen time otherwise, but just she tries to keep negativity out of it. She tries to keep it very focused on helpful, useful advice, you know, scientifically proven, or if not scientifically proven, then, you know, really saying it's, you know, each individual's own journey, and figuring out what works best for them, but really just trying to help people and not bring others down. I go on some other groups and it's just negative, negative, negative. I hate this. This is my life. I don't want my life to be like this. And Rebecca's groups really tries to find solutions. So being able to expand the reach of positivity and finding solutions would be wonderful.
That's an area where we definitely are kind of looking at how do we plan to be able to bring volunteers on board in a more organized fashion, because one of the things I've felt just most painfully conscious of in the last year or two is not having the time to put in managing and steering the groups. And I know exactly what you're talking about with the negativity and things. It's such a trap when you're struggling with something that's painful, when you're not getting needs met. It's when you get a whole lot of people in that same struggle right in one place together, it's really hard sometimes for that not to get pretty dark. And yet we have so many reasons to hope. We've got a long track record of so many people coming out the other side and doing well. And we've got so many new treatments coming on board. We've got tons of new drugs and devices in development. We've got education in the medical world just increasing all the time with better understanding of eye pain. There are so many reasons to hope. I'm just thinking actually of a call I had with someone today who called in, and it was sounding pretty dark when we first talked. It sounded like this is somebody in with some really extreme symptoms that are in this person's case absolutely disabling, but it sounded like no one anywhere was helping at all. But as we talked through things, I found actually, while they're still severely disabled right now, they're on a great path at getting all of the pieces and solutions in place. They've gotten better diagnosis. They're getting some help with getting stuff under control. And sometimes it's just, how do we shine some light on what are the signs of progress and signs of hope in a situation? It's what we all do best for each other as a community. We need the steering help from those who have been at this a long time, people who are veterans like Mandy, who have been there and done that and know that even with all this going on, you can lead a happy, productive life, that there are solutions, there are strategies, there is support, there are things. Excuse me. So going back to what you were saying, Mandy, about money, I'm seeing the question from Tommy in our Q&A here. And sorry, Tommy, not going to engage medical questions. I see one before that. I'm not going to engage those today, but I'll get back in touch with you about that. So the question was, if you had a good regular fund source, what would it be used for? Salaries for staff, I imagine. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question yet for ongoing things. I've tended to look at things more in terms of projects and what we need on the technical side to get projects done, and not so much salaries, though we do have staffing needs. I know that we need administrative support, for example, and one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is need for someone running our social media in general, because we've got this huge, these rich resources of so much content. Basically, we've got the happy hour sessions, we've got lots of information on Dry Eye Zone, we've got Dry Eye Stories. There's so much information that and resources that can be put to use, but we need somebody to get it out there and get the highlights out there to people to help show where they can get things. So that's one direction we're looking in. One of the projects we've got kind of on the back burner right now, as we're seeking funding for it, is a library of all the kind of practical management topics that we need in the dry eye world, from how do I keep my eyes comfortable and protected overnight if I've got severe dry eye or a CPAP mask, to how do I communicate more effectively with my eye doctor or with my employer, or how do I fund these treatments that my doctor's telling me I need. There's so many practical topics that we've got this rich knowledge base as a community, and we just want to put it into forms that are accessible to people when they need them, both through our websites and ultimately through doctors' offices. So there's production costs and things associated with that we've been out there looking for funding on. I don't know, I'm getting down into the weeds a little bit here, but just trying to give you some flavor on that.
Hey, I got a really cool glimpse of that. I don't know when it was at this point, of Rebecca writing a grant for a project that was just that, of getting all the kind of resources together and what that would look like, and just seeing kind of the really high level sketch of what all needed to be done. I don't know if it'll be this year. I kind of think it's a bigger project than that, but that's something I definitely look forward to, is getting that out and published.
Yeah, we did apply for a grant that seemed very promising, but we were up against a whole lot of organizations that are helping people with macular degeneration. There were a lot of them, and there were just a couple in dry eye, and macular degeneration won out. But there are, I mean, when we want money, I know money is out there. There are sources we can go to and apply, and we're probably, there's another one that we're looking at probably applying for in the next month or so. But individual donations have been the mainstay for us all this time, really. We had one company donation. And do you want to tell the 12 Days of Christmas story?
So we did have one donor who I started out with $2, and Rebecca and I were like, oh, did you see that? And the next day was $4, and there were a couple trends that could have developed from that, but he ended up doubling every day pretty much for the 12 Days of Christmas. I think the last one came in on the 29th, but it was 12 donations. And what was the last one? $4,096 or something. That was last year. Yeah. So a couple months ago.
That's awesome. And speaking of funding, I'm going to put a shout out because Rebecca does not like to ask for funding, but something I do that I know a lot of people don't do, a lot of people give individual donations, but I do a sustaining donation. So if any of you are NPR listeners, you hear their fund drives and they're like, become a sustainable donor. So I do that, and I right now do $20 a month, which I know isn't a lot, but when my school loans are done being paid, I will up that amount. And, just comes out of your bank account every month. You don't even have to think about it. Think about how much money you spend on coffee at Starbucks. I'm doing the NPR thing. So, yeah, you can be a sustainable donor and make that a monthly donation. So those of you who want to give some money, you should do that.
We have that available on PayPal now. We don't have it, I think, just as we don't have another way to do it than PayPal at the moment on an automatic basis, but PayPal,
Yeah, I do it through PayPal. So
it's easy to set up, and we just appreciate everyone who's contributed so much. I mean, big donations, little donations, just knowing people care and want to be part of this is a big deal. I have a bad reputation on the board for just avoiding all money talk, period, which is why I so badly need people like Roger who will hold my feet to the fire about it, and people like Mandy who will get out there and say the things that I don't want to say or ask. But just really appreciate everyone who's contributed. Our board has just it's been a new experience for me. I ran a little nonprofit in laser eye surgery advocacy, complications advocacy a really long time ago, and then not for a long time. And starting this, it's just been really neat. And I just so deeply appreciate everyone on the board and the voices that they bring to the table. Talked about Roger and just the business sense and going right at all the hard questions, which is really awesome, keeps things balanced. And Dr. Brown bringing that critical perspective of what does this look like in the medical world? What things are doable, what aren't? What are some of the innovative directions we could go to get over some of those hurdles that are so difficult to surmount? Mandy, I particularly appreciate on the side of just enthusiasm in the mentoring and in the getting out there and getting in touch with people. For all that my face is on our websites and things, I'm an introvert. None of that comes naturally to me. And I'd much rather just sit here on my phone with people. So I just appreciate that so much, and so many other things, and all your contributions in Dry Happy Hour. And Aidan, I mean, he's just been my mainstay here for a long time. Aidan is my brainstorm partner, and we go to town on ideas for this, which is just, I mean, it's amazing to see him connect with all of this without even having dry eye. But I think just the value for community and how we can all, on an equal basis, participate in learning and making things better for ourselves and for each other within our community. It's just been really fun to explore things with him. So we are winding down on time here. I think we're just going to do one last go round. Anybody want to share any just last words about that was the wrong phrasing, but anyway, additional words about the Dry Foundation heading into 2021 in this very challenging COVID world. Roger, I'll pick on you first.
Muted.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm generally optimistic about where we're going, and I think that we've got a little bit of momentum, and I think we've got the will to generate more. And I really think that over the next couple years that this foundation can get to the point where it's significantly impactful. And, we're going to just increase the notoriety of the foundation generally, and awareness of the condition or the multiple conditions that are lumped into dry eye. I think that, if not now, when? I mean, this is the time to really kind of keep this going. And I think people are, having gone through this whole pandemic, I just think people generally have tapped into their empathetic selves more than they may have in the past, and are open to learning about how other people are struggling and being successful in overcoming this challenge, and how they can help. And so I'm bullish on the foundation, and on finding some solutions for people. So I'm just generally encouraged.
Thanks, Roger, and thanks for taking the time to be part of this. It's fun to just kind of open this up to our community to just see who's behind this. I really appreciate your doing this. Dr. Brown?
Well, I actually never got to answer the question about what I think is the neatest thing that's been happening lately.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer that because it's a very long-term thing. But I really credit the dry eye community that you created, and then the optometrists, and even those in the eye care community that aren't particularly interested in dry eye, but really firmly bringing to their attention the psychological aspects of the disease, the fact that it's not a trivial condition that affects whiny perimenopausal females, that it can be extraordinarily debilitating, have enormous financial implications. And I really feel like you in particular, but your community in general with you, have put that unavoidably on the map at my professional level. And that's been a very long-term accomplishment and an amazing accomplishment because I can say this, I'm a doctor, we don't necessarily take in a whole lot of data from outside very easily. And you've managed to push in this data from outside, and it is data. So I think one of the critical things that you've accomplished is to have a dry eye survey that was generated by people that let you ask questions that dry eye sufferers could actually answer. And I think it is time to start to leverage that data and really use that as your next kind of flagship interaction format with the MD-OD side of the conundrum.
Well, thank you. And that felt incredibly humbling. It's such a, as you say, a long-term community experience in this. I just, as you were talking, I was kind of flashing back in my head to a few years ago. One of those things rattling around in my head, got up in the middle of the night, took one of my giant sticky note pads and started sort of storyboarding all over the living room wall about it. It was about the data, as Dr. Brown said, the being at the center of these incredible information streams from all these people with all these different eye conditions, and just getting to kind of take that in and then reflect that back out in our community. That's a continual process of experiencing, pooling information, reflecting on it, and then that information getting outside of our own community into the medical community. That's, so, I see that as the core and essential thing for us to achieve on an ongoing basis. Mandy.
On that note, my last words are in agreement with Rebecca and Dr. Brown in that getting the information to the medical community, I think has been working. And I will just mention a recent person that I've been talking to that has been struggling with dry eyes lately. One of the doctors that I see recommended that she reach out to Rebecca. And it's because I've seen him and I just talk endlessly about the foundation and the work that Rebecca and Aidan and everyone has been doing. And so he said, oh, here's a resource, give them a call. And then we've been connecting her with many people to talk to help her navigate what's going on in her life. And my other doctor that I see, my ophthalmologist, every time I go in, I've brought her binders, I've brought her like so much information. I talk to her and she's like, I learn from you every time you come in. I'm like, I'm sorry I've talked so much. I like apologize to her scribe because I talk so much about what's going on and what I've learned. And I'm just hoping that more and more people will do that, talk with their doctors, talk about what's going on, talk about how this is impacting their lives, talk about the resources that are out there, and that they should give those resources to their patients, because doctors can't be all things. The eye doctors can't be all things. I think every eye doctor should have a mental health friend that they're referring people to, and then also referring resources that are out there like us. So I'm hoping that just more people will not only talk to their doctors, but reach out to us for assistance and help, and someone to commiserate with, or to figure out how to make their future happy. And so I guess those are my last words.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Aidan, it's over to you. And then I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up here.
All right, so I have the easiest job. I just get to steal what everyone else has already said. But I think what it comes down to, looking forward to the future of changing the conversation about dry eye, changing the conversations, but also the conversation kind of on a big picture, like Mandy and Dr. Brown are talking about. Talking about pain, being open about experiences, mental health, all of this kind of stuff. I mean, every conversation we have between me and Rebecca, between all of us on the board on happy hours, is working to kind of change the paradigm that dry eye is seen in. And maybe one day we won't call it dry eye, we'll be more specific. That's such a long-term thing, but definitely one of the biggest motivators is just, changing the landscape. So.
Well, that's a beautiful wrap up right there. Changing the conversation, changing the paradigm from dry eye to, we got ocular surface diseases, we got ocular surface pain, getting more specific, but changing it to orient it around what are the actual problems we're facing, and what are our pathways through those. So there's so many exciting things to look forward to that we get to work on and do. And I'm just really looking forward to rolling up the sleeves again this year. And with the support of the board, I just appreciate everyone that served on the board so much, knowing that I'm no walk in the park to work with here. And everyone's been amazing with bringing their value aboard this.
All right, give yourself more credit. You spend so much time on this. You're allowed to have crabby days or, whatever. You're great.
Well, it's been an amazing journey with you guys. And thank you again for just serving on the board. And thanks for all of you for coming to this to just give a little window to our community of who's involved. And we hope to see many of you that are watching, let us know if you are interested in rolling up your sleeves and getting involved. We would love to have you. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We will
Thank you.
see you next time, a week from Friday, and try a happy hour.
Bye, everyone.